Hi, female, 23. I'm engaged to a lovely man, Zach, male, 25. This relationship is my first, and we're both a really solid couple. He was there for me when my parents separated 10 years ago, and he's been there ever since. Zach and I are the stereotypical high school sweethearts, but we've evolved and grown up with each other. Naturally, since he's been in my life so long, both my mom and dad know him well. They separated because my dad was extremely busy with his work and he prioritized that over his family. It hurt me and mom a lot, and I sided with her in the custody battle. It took dad a few years, but he realized where he had gone wrong and since then has apologized to both me and mom. That's given us a sense of closure, and I formed a good relationship with both my parents. I told them about my engagement together, and they were both super excited. That was 2 years ago. And some things have changed and left me feeling deprioritized by my family. Zach and I had a lot of things on our plate and were both in the early period of our careers, so we didn't want to get married before knowing where we would be settling down, whether the work life balance we had worked for each other, and stuff like that. So we moved in together and were making sure that we could start our marriage on a strong foundation. There was no rush to get married from either of us, and our families were understanding about that. About a year after I got engaged, my mom met a man, Peter. Peter and mom immediately hit it off. In her words, the relationship was electric, and they got married within 6 months. I had my own misgivings about this, but my mom was happy and seemed to know what she was doing. Besides, Peter was a really nice and thoughtful guy, just not a father figure to me. He wanted to be, but honestly, I was an adult and didn't need one besides my already present dad. During their wedding, I also got to meet my stepsister, Cassie, female, 26, for the first time. As nice as Peter was, his daughter was the exact opposite. She was loud, rude, and just had a terrible vibe. I mean, she for real showed up to the wedding wearing a champagne dress, which was almost white, which caused the first serious fight between Mom and Peter. She also introduced us to her fiancé, Bruce, male, 22, at the time, and the poor guy could barely get a word out. Cassie was just really domineering and passed that off as extroverted. After Zach and I got back from Mom's wedding, we dubbed them the Hyde couple to our jackal, which I get is a bit mean, but it's just an inside joke. In this period of time, Zach and I had also gotten quite well settled and ironed out the kinks in our relationship. We were ready to get married and set a date. Surprise, surprise, Cassie set her own wedding date too, just a week before ours. When I spoke to my mom and Peter about it, they said that it was manageable and they would be able to attend both weddings. However, I didn't want to take time out of my own wedding planning to attend the wedding of someone who I didn't know very well and frankly didn't like either. I get that there are family obligations, but this was too much. I mean, she had no reason to set a date so close to ours. Zach and I had been engaged for years, and Bruce and Cassie had started dating just a year ago. After a lot of arguing, I put my foot down and said that I won't go to Cassie's wedding. My mom and Peter were welcome to go, though, and I sincerely hoped that they would be able to come to my wedding, too. This turned out to be a valid compromise, and wedding planning for me and my stepsister started in earnest. Immediately, I noticed that Mom and Peter were way more into Cassie's wedding than mine. It might be because Zach and I had been together so long and it was less exciting to plan out. It may be because I was willing to do more things myself, even though I would have appreciated having Mom's input. I don't know. It did build up a bit of resentment, but thankfully, Dad and Zach's parents were super supportive and helped me with whenever I needed it. Overall, though, I kind of planned the entire wedding with just Zach, and both of us were super tired of running around and getting our venue, caterers, music, and everything sorted alone. Cut to the day before Cassie's wedding. Everyone was sorted for me and Zach, and we were just looking forward to enjoying our big day. But even if we didn't go to my stepsister's wedding, the drama still followed us while we were trying to unwind. I got a call from my mom saying, OP, the wedding is off. I can't believe it. Your dad, I don't like her using that word, is distraught. Can we come and stay with you guys for a bit? I think he needs to be in a more stable setting. A bit reluctantly, I agreed, and they flew over to our apartment the next day. Peter was very hesitant to tell us what had happened, but I eventually eked it out from Mom and the few mutual connections I had who went to the wedding. Cassie, well, slept with the best man. It's actually insane, but she got drunk the night before the wedding and hit on Bruce's college buddy. Thinking with his dick and not his head, he slept with her, and the morning after felt so guilty that he confessed to his best friend. This led to a literal brawl. Bruce then cussed out Cassie to the altar and walked off by himself. His family is also livid and considers Cassie to be a bitch. She's gone off all social media and is living at Peter's house while Bruce moves out. However, Peter can't bear to be around his daughter, and that's why he wanted to come live with us. I mean, after hearing the full story, I did empathize with them and understood why they wanted to get away from the mess Cassie had made. But Mom had an unreasonable demand to go along with it. She cornered me in the kitchenette one evening and asked, OP, do you think that you could let Peter walk you down the aisle? He's been spiraling since the wedding, and it would help him feel better to help you in your wedding. I scoffed, and immediately Mom got upset. I tried to explain that I wanted to have my bio dad walk me down the aisle, and I had a good relationship with him. On the other hand, I barely knew Peter. Things have been icy since then, and Mom keeps bringing up how Dad hurt us in the past to try and guilt trip me into choosing her husband over my dad. I do agree that Peter is a really good guy and doesn't deserve to be in the place he is in right now. But WIBTA if I refused? Update 1. With the wedding just a few days away, I'm being pressured to make a decision. Since Mom and Peter are still living with me, things are just super stressful. Yesterday, Peter approached me and told me that he didn't know what my mom had asked of me, saying, It's okay, OP. I don't want you to compromise on your big day. I'll just be there as a guest. And that's more than enough for me. I hope we can build a better relationship as time goes on. His attitude and understanding made my heart melt, and I genuinely felt terrible about the position he's in. The man is going through a lot. He's constantly in touch with Bruce's family trying to make amends. He feels guilty for everything that happened, and he's thinking about cutting off Cassie because of her complete lack of remorse. I do think that a nice gesture would help him feel better and make him forget about everything that's going on. So I'm thinking about my decision. I think it's important to speak to the other people who will be affected by this before I make any kind of decision on my own. I'll ask my bio dad to meet me and Zach and see whether we can come up with something. At the end of the day, if my bio dad isn't comfortable with it, it's not going to happen. Update 2. So I invited Dad over to stay at our house too. From there, we'll all go together to the wedding venue, so it makes sense logistically too. I told Dad everything that had gone down on text, and he didn't shy away from talking about it in front of Peter and Mom. He started off by saying, Listen, I understand that you're feeling terrible, but that doesn't mean I won't get to walk my own daughter down the aisle. Peter, again, was apologetic, while Mom was still trying to convince us, and it looked like it would be an awkward wedding. However, Zach piped up with an amazing idea. They could both walk me down the aisle. Everyone agreed that this would be the best way to go, except Peter still felt like he was going to impose. I sat him down and told him that he had done a lot by making my mom happy. Even though I was surprised at the pace their relationship moved at, he was a genuinely good person, and I wanted him to become a bigger part of my life as time went on. Since we were all feeling vulnerable and open, I also told Peter and Mom how hurt I was that they prioritized Cassie's wedding over mine. They recognized what they did was wrong and gave me the context of how difficult and emotionally manipulative Cassie had been during that time. I might take some time to heal from it, but I accepted their apology. With that, we finally settled on having my bio dad and Peter walk me down the aisle. Update 3. The wedding went super smoothly and nobody made a fuss about the arrangement. There were a few people from Peter's side of the family who were still busy gossiping about Cassie, but Peter shut them down and made sure that the day was all about me and Zach. It felt nice, and I do feel like things are very positive for us as a family. Cassie was obviously not there, and Mom and Peter are thinking of cutting her off because of what she's done. Good riddance, in my opinion. NTA, I think it was really sweet for you to make that gesture. And if anyone is the a-hole here, it's your mom for raising it in such a tactless manner. I hope that you and your husband have a long and happy marriage. NTA, I can't believe the story about Cassie's wedding. That's a legit insane. It must have taken a lot out of your stepdad, and it's clear that he loves you a lot despite the short span of time he's been in your life. I think he was considerate and let you make the decision yourself, which is what matters the most. I personally don't think I could have let anyone apart from my dad walk me down the aisle, but I respect your decision. Next story. I, 25, female, recently moved to a new city for a job. I decided it was time to get some new furniture as well. I went to a local furniture shop, found a decent bedroom set, bought it, and scheduled for delivery later that week. The day of delivery, I get a call saying my delivery will be there 10 to 6 p.m. I ask if he could narrow down the time frame a little bit since I have errands to run, but want to be sure not to miss the delivery. He said he'd call when he was 2 hours out, which he did, and everything worked out. The delivery, which included assembly, was normal, nothing out of the ordinary. I was mostly in the living room organizing. We made brief small talk about me being new to town, maybe chatted for 5 minutes. He finished his job and left, and that was that. About a week later, I started getting really weird text messages from an unsaved number. What would you do if you knew you loved someone from the first time you saw them? Was the first of them. At first I ignored it, then asked, who the frick is this? They wouldn't answer, just kept telling me to answer their questions. Do you have a boyfriend? What would be your dream date? I blocked the number. Then I realized the number looked kind of familiar. I know very few people with this area code, so I checked my call log back to the day of delivery, and holy shit, the same number that is texting me is the number they called about my delivery. I mentioned how freaked out I was to my friend and her boyfriend on NYE. I brought it up to them because he's a delivery driver for Amazon, so kind of similar jobs. He said, how else is a guy supposed to shoot his shot? After talking to friends, they don't seem to think it's big of a deal as I do. WIBTA for calling the police, or is that overreacting? I'm questioning what to do after talking with friends. He knows where I live, obviously, so I don't want to make this guy mad, but the content of the message and the audacity to take a customer's personal number to text them personally. Clearly issues with boundaries, which are not okay. I agree with this. You will not be TA. I'd call the delivery company and report this. I'd also unlock the number for a few minutes and send a message saying, this is wildly inappropriate. I am not interested and please do not contact me again. The guy's messages are super creepy. I'd be freaked out too. The creepy guy needs a reality check. The company will likely move faster than the cops, but I'd call the police, non-emergency number, or go down to the precinct and talk to someone. Tell them the situation, that you aren't asking for him to be arrested, but that you would like them to let him know that harassing, stalking, etc. is a crime, and have them issue a criminal trespass warning that he needs to stay away from you and your residence. Not sure where you live. I'm a criminal attorney in the US though, and that's what we call it in my state. If he comes near your home, at that point, he can be arrested. If he continues calling, texting after you've told him to stop, he can get into trouble for that too. Keep your wits about you and watch out for yourself. To basically insinuate he was in love with you from the first time he saw you was super creepy. Just to add, if the police won't do anything about a criminal trespass warning, or whatever they call it where you live, send the message and keep the number unblocked. Save every message and log the calls if there are any of those. At that point, you can go down to your local courthouse. You're looking for the district attorney, state attorney, victim advocate office, and tell them you need help applying for a restraining order from a stranger who is repeatedly harassing, stalking, and scaring you. They should be able to help you get the paperwork filled out. If he ends up being arrested at any point, a condition of bond, his sentence, should be no contact with you either directly or indirectly, in person, by phone, by email, or any other method. Good luck. If you still have a delivery receipt or order slip, his name might be on there, possibly his employee number or something similar. You ordered from the company, so even if you don't have a receipt, slip, order number, etc., you know the date, approximate, time he was there, and what you ordered from them. The company should have a record of some kind showing which employee was where, so they should be able to use that info to look up the order, delivery guy's info, so they can give the police a name, even if they won't give it to you directly. Absolutely NTA, and I'm sorry someone you called friend invalidated your very legitimate concern about the super creepy behavior of the random delivery guy, which is just as disgusting as the creep's behavior, IMO. It is absolutely not okay. He used his professional capacity to obtain your number and is now using it to harass you. Next story. We live on campus, and my roommate of this year, Lila, is the best one I had the pleasure of living with so far. There's just one thing. She keeps some of her friends' food supplies in our room since theirs is cramped and there's no space. So her two friends have been going in and out of our room frequently. At first, they would always knock before going in and say hi. But over time, I told them it's fine if they don't knock and they're welcome to go in any time. 2 weeks ago, though, this girl, Z, moved in with them, and I don't like her one bit. She didn't really do anything outrageously wrong, but the way she feels entitled to just barge into the room when we're practically strangers and not even talk to me got on my nerves. Plus, she woke me up several times with how violently she opened the door. So I told Lila that when I initially agreed to her friends coming in, I wasn't expecting such a big number, and that the way the door is being opened would jolt me awake. She was good about it and said she'll ask them to knock from now on. Z only knocked for 2 days before she suddenly barged in again yesterday, searching around for what she needed, then walked out without so much as looking at me. So I got up and locked the door. When Z came later, she was forced to knock, and I only opened the door to a slit and told her, "I'm sorry, Lila isn't in the room." She said she just wanted to grab something, but I told her, "I'm sorry, the only reason I've been letting them go in is because of Lila, on the condition that they knock. But since she wouldn't, she would have to go through Lila from now on." She got mad and said she's not here to see my pretty face, but because she was hungry and that the room is not just mine. I didn't want to debate this with her, so I closed the door and locked it again. When Lila came back, I thought she'd be on my side, but she actually told me I should have talked to her first and not do this directly to her friend. She said Z wasn't required to greet me, but that she'll talk to her again about the knocking. I told her she wasn't hearing me, that Z is no longer welcome with or without knocking unless she's there. She said I was being unreasonable and will talk again. Well, we haven't since then, and none of her friends came by again. Am I the a-hole here? Update. I know my post made her out to be bad, but she was a good roommate until this happened. If she wanted to borrow something, she'd always ask me. And my God, if she borrowed, let's say my hairdryer once, she would not just go ahead and take it twice. No, she'd ask every single time. Do you know how precious this kind of behavior is? I've been with 3 roommates so far, and I always had this problem with them. Also, I feel absolutely safe with her. I know she'd never take anything nor touch my bed or belongings without permission. Also, she gives little things back she borrows, like the toilet paper roll when she gets paid, when I've already forgotten about them. If it was someone else, I'd bet you they won't give it back until I've had to ask for it. This is why I was cool with the storing thing or her friends coming in and out. You treat me well, I treat you better. I mean, I'm with you. I've lived on and off campus and I didn't have a locker. I had a freaking backpack. These lazy weirdos should try it. IMAO. I had an aunt who worked at my high school and had a microwave in her office that me, my cousins, and our friends were allowed to occasionally use to skip the line for microwave in the cafeteria. Instead of using this as an occasional privilege, my friends would purposely bring things that needed to be microwaved and try to barge into her office every day and not bring cutlery because they would just grab her plastic stuff that she pays for. But since I'm not an a-hole, as soon as I saw this was happening, I shut it down and told them they're being abusive and lost the privilege to use it. They were pissed and tried to make fun of me, and I just rolled my eyes and told them to grow up. They weren't my friends for long. Moral of the story sounds like OP's roommate needs to quit being a pushover. I'm willing to bet the reason she took her friend's side is because her friends are putting pressure on her, which is childish and rude. She should be telling them to shut up and respect the no because they abuse the privilege or get lost. NTA, it doesn't matter how quietly someone uses a door. The shared room for 2 people situation is not designed for loads of people to store their shit in one of those rooms. To be honest, it's an alien concept to me, a Brit, that people are forced to share their bedroom with even one other person. Boundaries. Your stuff and your actual room share of stuff is all you should have. I have no idea why your roommate would offer to store anyone else's crap. I also am not sure why theirs is cramped. Is your problem? Are these campus spaces not simply cookie-cutter shapes where it's all pretty much the same space amount? Something doesn't add up. If I were you, I'd apply to transfer to a different room, if possible, because this roommate has made your life impossible now. I'm pretty sure there's probably a rule protecting you from having your room sharer just open your private space up to all her associates this way. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.